Why the Spalding NBA Street Outdoor Basketball is the best budget basketball of 2021, and why you don't need super expensive basketball gear to dominate out here at the park. Welcome back to Streetball Strategies.
Hey, it's a party for show. Tell everybody you know. We found a whole nother wave. This about to hit up the coast. I see the look in your eyes. I know that look in your eyes. I know you know it's a vibe. Hey,
so quick and to the point, the Spalding NBA Street Outdoor Rubber Basketball is the best budget basketball for the summer of 2021 because it is the best quality outdoor rubber, any material ball that you're going to find for the lowest price. Now, I haven't experienced or tested every ball on the market. I don't know about every single ball that there is, but in terms of online pricing and pricing balls and feeling basketballs at the store, from my own experience, this is the best quality outdoor basketball you're gonna find in 2021 for the lowest price. Thus, it is the best budget outdoor basketball in 2021. If you guys want a more in-depth review of how this ball is and how it performs and how it feels, I have reviews of this ball other places on this channel, so you guys can go and check those out. But I wanted to use this idea of this being the best budget ball in 2021 to talk about another subject that I touched on a little bit in a previous video, one of the very first videos I did for this channel, which was what to wear when you play basketball. In that video, I touched upon how you don't need expensive basketball gear to be good at basketball out here at the park. But I wanted to expand on that today and say not only do you not need expensive gear, but I also think that expensive gear may actually hurt your game out here at the park. Now, why is that? Why would having expensive, impressive gear out here at the park, why would that hurt your game? Well, whenever we ask questions like this, especially why questions, we want to get to the root of the problem. So we'll start asking the questions and work our way back asking why until we get to the root, so we can solve the root of the problem instead of just dealing with like the symptoms of the problem, right? So let's start with why players would want to have expensive gear to start with. Now, these players are usually young players, right? They're usually teenage players, players sort of at the beginning of their career and legacy. They don't just have to be young players. There are plenty of other older players who want to have the most expensive gear too, but usually that thought process starts when you're younger, as a teenager. Let me first say that what I'm about to say, I'm not trying to be harsh, I'm not trying to come at you, I'm not trying to attack you or offend you or anything like that. It's not my intention at all. All I'm trying to do is help you by letting you know that I've already had this experience and made these mistakes, and I'm trying to help you make your career better and more efficient by not having to make the kind of same mistakes that I have. So why would you want to have expensive gear? Well, you want to have expensive gear because you want to impress people with that gear. You want people to be impressed with the gear that you have out here. Well, why would you want them to be impressed? You want them to be impressed by your gear because you feel insecure. Why would you feel insecure? The reason you feel insecure is because you don't really yet have a basketball identity out here. Now, I know you may be saying to yourself, come on, Tony, I know who I am as a player. My friends, my teammates, we all know who we are as a player. We have identities out here on the court. How dare you? And I'm not trying to come at you. I'm just saying that if you are actually serious about basketball, if this is your life, if you're a teenager and this is what you do, this is what you think about, this is what you want all of the time, and your plan for the future is this is going to be at the center of your life for the foreseeable future, for assumedly the rest of your life, even if you don't end up playing basketball for a living, even if it's not your profession, you could still play basketball seriously and take it seriously well into your 40s. So let's say you're 18 years old. If you're 18, you still have about 30 years of playing basketball seriously. And if you're 18, you have maybe 10 years of playing basketball behind you at this point, and probably way less than that. At least I would say hopefully way less than that if you're 18, because when you're 8 or 9 years old, should you be playing and taking basketball super seriously? Probably not. I have a video about how the first thing you should do in your career is to love the game, and you shouldn't be taking it so seriously when you're so young. So maybe at 18 you have 10 years of experience, and what I'm saying about not having an identity yet is that relative to what you're going to establish in the future as your identity, especially in the next 15 years or so, as you go through your 20s and your later 20s and you get into your physical prime and then your basketball prime, that identity is going to be so much more expansive and deep than whatever identity you have right now as a teenager, that in comparison to the identity you have now compared to the identity you're going to have in the future in your prime, essentially you don't have an identity yet. And that's not a bad thing, that's not me taking a shot at you, that's just the way it's going to be. And especially if you have the impulse to have expensive gear as a teenager in order to impress other people out here on the court, you definitely don't have a real sense of basketball identity yet, because you're using external excuses and external things to establish your identity as a basketball player. The whole idea being that if people see you wearing expensive gear, if they see you have expensive shoes and clothes and a ball, if they see that expensive stuff, they will make the assumption that if you have expensive gear, then you should be able to play good basketball. So let's discuss why that may actually hurt your game out here. How having super expensive gear could hurt you out here on the court is if you have that gear and you use it and you play with it every game, you're setting such a super high, impossible bar and standard for you to play up to. With that super expensive gear, you're telling people you should assume that I can play really high level basketball because I have really high level, quality, expensive basketball gear. And when you do that, when you wear that stuff, have that stuff all day, every day, for every game you play, you're setting the bar high to the point where you're not allowed to have an off game. You're not even allowed to have an average game. You have to play amazing basketball every single game that you play. And we all know that's not a reasonable expectation for anyone to have for anybody's game. I do like and I get the idea that you're trying to set the standard high for yourself so that you have to live up to that standard. The problem with that is that you're not only playing up to your own standard and what you think your legacy is out here, your legacy and your career out here is also very much about what other people, the other players out here think about you, how they perceive you. Obviously, the most important thing is what you think about your own career, but it's not the only ideas and the only thing that makes up your legacy out here. We as basketball players can also be very vain, and we do care about what other people think about how we play. And if we're setting the standard by having super expensive gear that we can play super high-level basketball every game, at that point, we're not allowed to have off games. We're not allowed to play average. We have to play high-level basketball every game. And anything we do below that, any performance below super high, amazing basketball is going to be disappointing, especially to players who don't know us. And because of that, it's going to hurt your game. It's going to be a letdown for players and strangers who don't know you. So what I advise instead is, instead of having super expensive gear and using that as a tool to help impress players, I advise that you get the very best gear that you can that works the very best way for you, but at the very lowest price you can find it. Which means you're going to end up usually having average gear, off-brand gear. Because off-brand stuff is going to work at least 80% as well as the super expensive stuff. I would say that's good enough. 80% is good enough. You can work with 80%. You can make 80% of the very best work. and it's going to cost a fraction of the price of the super expensive stuff. What's going to happen then is you're going to show up to the court, you're going to have average gear, off-brand gear, nothing impressive, nothing that's going to catch anyone's eye or get anyone's attention off the bat. It's just going to be average, but it's going to work for you the way you need it to work. By doing that, now you've set the standard to average, meaning people are going to see you, strangers are going to see you, and they're going to perceive that you're an average player at best. Now the bar is much more low, it's much more average. So now, if you play bad, if you have a bad game, well, there's no helping that. It doesn't matter what kind of gear you have. If you play badly, that's always going to hurt your reputation regardless. But if you play average, well, then you've lived up to that bar that you've set by that having that average gear that you come out to the court with. But what I like about this, what I prefer about this is when you have average gear, anything you play above average starts to become impressive because people are expecting you to only be an average player. When you play above average, now you're building up a little bit of impressiveness because you're playing above the expectations you've set. And I understand that's not some kind of magic pill where you go from average player one game to now you're the man out here the next game. But you have to understand that doesn't exist. That doesn't happen. Most of the improvement we make out here is by little fractions, and it's not about doing one big huge thing that suddenly makes you the man. It's about little improvements over time that slowly build up your legacy. So when you have average gear and you play just a little bit above average, and you do that over and over again, over time, that's how you build up your career, that's how you build up your legacy and your reputation. So again, find the gear that works the best for you, but at the lowest price you can. Which brings me back to why this Spalding NBA Street Outdoor Ball is the best budget outdoor ball in the market in 2021. Because I could and would make the argument that Spalding, at least in the United States, is the biggest, most well-known basketball brand in America. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily the best brand, but it just means that it's the most well-known because of its close association with the NBA over the last few decades. In reality, Spalding could probably price all of their basketballs at least $50 if they wanted to, simply because of the Spalding name. Now, barely anybody would buy Spalding basketballs in comparison to how many buy Spalding basketballs today at their current prices, but they still could price the balls at $50, and some people would still pay that money because it's Spalding. That's why this ball is such a good value, because it has the Spalding name, it has Spalding quality for a rubber outdoor basketball, and yet it's $15 in 2021. And in terms of visually and just looking at the ball, nothing impressive about it. There's nothing about this ball that says, oh, look how impressive it is. It must be super expensive. If I have this ball and it's super expensive, then ooh, I must be a great basketball player, guys. Look at me, look at my ball. I must be really good at basketball. Nope, there's nothing about this ball that says that. This ball just works. It just does what it's supposed to do, and it does what I need it to do. But it looks like an average ball, and if I play above average with this ball, then I have a little bit of impressiveness that I've now impacted on the players that I'm playing with and against. And by doing that, I leave a little bit of impression on them. And by doing that, they will hopefully remember me, and I will build a little bit of currency in terms of my legacy with them. But if I had a super expensive, super impressive ball that screams, I paid a lot of money for this ball because I'm a super good basketball player, and then I come out here and I play average, right? That's gonna hurt my legacy. I can't play average with a super expensive, impressive basketball. I have to play above average at the very least. But with this ball, I can play average, I can play just a little bit above average, and all that does is help build my career. So that's it. That's why this is the best budget outdoor basketball of 2021, and that's why as a park outdoor basketball player, you don't need expensive basketball gear. So thank you guys for watching. If you found value and good information in this video, a thumbs up would be great. And if you could subscribe to the channel, that really helps me out. I really do appreciate that. And make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified of all of the future videos coming up on this channel. More basketball street strategies and philosophies, and basketball reviews and comparisons. And I'll see you guys next week.
Check it, ready, set it off. I ain't gon' stop till I get it all. I bring the vibe when I get involved. For me and my people, I bet it all. I set it all. I've been there, done that. Kick off the party, I run back. Check the take, I won that. The game, I already won that.